Okay, Aaron's here. Wonderful.
Wow.
Are we getting started?
Aaron's in?
He's already in. He's waiting. I don't know how long he's been on, but okay, here we go. Today's Daf Yud, and I'm just going to go, and hopefully everyone's paying attention. And if you're not paying attention, it'll be on the recording. You can listen to it later. Okay, so we're holding in the middle of the sugi here on Daf Testament Beis in the bottom. We flipped over to the top. We started discussing, the Mishnah says that there are 15 arayos, that if they should fall to Yibum because of the Erva relationship, they're pater. Not only that, the Tzara that they're married to is also pater. Tzara's Erva's pater. And the Mishnah said not only that, but Tzara's pater. And that continues on for many generations, no matter how many different brothers you're talking about, it's always going to pater. So there's a list of 15 in the Mishnah. So on the bottom of Testament Aleph, Levi had asked Rabbi Yudah Nasi, he said to him, I don't understand, why is there only 15 listed in the Mishnah? There's another case that could work. What if you'd have a case where a father had an illicit relationship with a woman, maybe she was a single woman, never got married, and produced a child? This would be considered a case of Anusas Aviv. Anusas Aviv is really the mother of one of the brothers. So imagine Reuven and Shimon are brothers, and Reuven is a product of that, let's say, mistress, and she goes and then Reuven dies. Sorry, Shimon dies after having married her. So who's falling to Reuven is his mother. Since his mother's an erva, you could put a mother in the Mishnah and it would fit. So we had three answers in the Gemara. We have gone through the first answer. The first answer was a little bit complicated, but the first answer effectively was saying that since we don't want to have any case in the Mishnah which is dependent upon a machlokas, and that opinion of whether a man is allowed to marry Anusas Aviv, is he even allowed to marry the woman that his father had been with in the past? So since that's a machlokas, we don't want to put anyone in the Mishnah that is only true according to one opinion, but not true according to another opinion, so therefore we left it out. The Gemara then went through a complicated example of other cases of Yismach Shalahoba. Lama, that's Tali and machlokas. The Gemara eventually said that La'olam, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, when he put the Mishnayos together, was not working by trying to fit the cases of the Mishnah Daf Beis into the Mishnah Daf Chavav. So therefore, even though you can have a Shesach Shalahaba Elomo in our Mishnah, he doesn't have to put it together with the Mishnah later on. So really, our Mishnah is all talking about where there are no machloks. That was the first answer of the Gemara. So says the Gemara, a second answer. And again, this is the answer as to why was Anusas Aviv not mentioned in the Mishnah. So again, first answer is because we don't want to have any more arguments in the Mishnah. No case in the Mishnah are dependent upon an argument. Rav Ada Karchina Kamid Rav Kahana Amr Mishmei the Rabba. He said a second answer. Rabba's answer is going to effectively be just outside that really we'll say that Rebbe does hold of Rav Chia, meaning that Rebbe does hold that the Mishnah by Daf Beis and the Mishnah Daf Chavav go together. And so that every one of the 15 ladies in the Mishnah that we say is an erva also has to fit the case on the Mishnah of Daf Chavav. Let's just quickly review the Mishnah of Daf Chavav. It's the first Mishnah, the Parak of Arba Achin. It's talking about a very Yevamos, a classic Yevamos scenario. You have four brothers, and two of the brothers are married to two sisters. So raise your hand if you're still following. Good? Okay. You have four brothers, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. We'll say that Reuven and Shimon are married to two sisters. We'll call them Rachel and Leah. Right? And then Reuven and Shimon die, leaving Levi and Yehuda to have to do Yibum with Rachel and Leah. Now, that's technically not a problem because it's two separate women married to two different brothers. Each one of them have a responsibility to do Yibum or Chalitza, and Levi and Yehuda are perfectly fine brothers to do that. Problem is that Midrabanan, since each one of these ladies is the sister of the other, that means each one of them, there's a Zika, there's a quasi-marriage, so Midrabanan, we treated them like the sister of your wife, and since the sister of your wife, Minat Torah, is Aser, the sister of your quasi-wife is going to be also Midrabanan. So the Mishnah says over there that Levi and Yehuda shouldn't do Yibum, but rather they should do Chalitza. The Mishnah then continues. It says, what if one of those two ladies is an erva to Levi and the other one is an erva to Yehuda? So that would mean that in a strange way, by introducing an erva to the scenario, since an erva paters, meaning there's no zika, so that means Levi, who is an erva to one of the ladies, now is allowed to do Yibum to the other one. Why? Because the sister is no longer, there's no zika, there's no relationship at all. So Levi could do Zika with Rachel, let's say, and Yehuda could do Yibum with Rachel, and Yehuda could do Yibum with Leah, and Shalom al Yisrael, everything would work. And the way the Mishnah expresses that halach on Daf Chavav is Achosa shehi Yavinta, the sisters are also Yevamos, and Asur Lazem, Mutaris Lazev, Asur Lazem, Mutaris Lazev. That's the Mishnah of Daf Chavav. Mitzvah Hashem in 14 days or 15 days we'll get to it, and we'll remember this Gemara hopefully. So either way, so that's the case over there. Now, what Rav Chia said was that Mishnah there, when I said that each one of those ladies are an erva to the two brothers, you can construct that case there with every single one of the 15 ladies mentioned in the Mishnah by us. That was the statement of Rav Chia, and we had been under the assumption that Rebbe was going to work with it. The first answer to the Gemara was Rebbe doesn't, so we're fine. But now the Gemara is saying no, La'olam he does. He does hold of Rav Chia. And in fact, it's exactly because he holds of Rav Chia as to why he doesn't put Anusas Aviv in the Mishnah. Meaning again, what's Anusas Aviv? Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Reuven is a byproduct of an illicit relationship that his father had. Shimon went ahead and married that woman, which is a machlokas, whether he was allowed to do that or not. So since it's telling a machlokas, we don't mind. We have no problem with machloksim. But the problem is how are you going to fit Anusas Aviv into the case over there? Meaning to say, in order for Anusas Aviv to be in that case, that means in the scenario I just gave, Levi can't be with Leah because Leah would be his mother, and Yehuda can't be with Rachel because Rachel would be Yehuda's mother, meaning through Anusas Aviv. But the problem is if that Levi, if the two sisters are both the mothers of the two brothers, raise your hand if you're still following. Yeah, okay. If the two sisters are sisters and also simultaneously the mothers of the two brothers, then there's no scenario where Levi and Yehuda will ever be able to do yibum with either one of those ladies. Why? Because if, let's say, Levi's mother is Leah, so that obviously can't do yibum with his mother, but who is Rachel to him? His mother's sister. You cannot do yibum with your mother's sister. That's also an erva. It's one of the listed in Mishnah in the Pesuk V'Nachrimos. So therefore, there's no way to have the Mishnah later on with the Nusas Aviv, because either if they're sisters, then everyone's going to be usher. And if they're not sisters, then you'll have a Mutaris Lazeh, Asur Lazeh, and Asur Lazeh, Mutaris Lazeh, but you won't have sisters. And the Mishnah says, Achosa Shehi Avimta, it's got to be a sister. So therefore, Rebbe said, the second answer to the Gemara is the reason why Rebbe said to Levi that he doesn't think he's got a brain in his head, literally the words he used. He said, what were you thinking, trying to suggest this belongs in the Mishnah? Clearly it doesn't belong because it doesn't fit with the Mishnah later on. Let's just read it inside. It says the Gemara, Lo'ilam Islay Rebbe Haniklal. He does hold of Rebbe Chia, meaning to say, our Mishnah and the Mishnah of the Chavav are like sisters. They have to go together. And this is what Rebbe was saying to Levi when he made the suggestion. You're not going to be able to accomplish that it fits both requirements in the Mishnah of Chavav. Because Yaakov Beis Achia, if the father had an illicit relationship with two ladies, and those two ladies were sisters, which fits Achosa Shehi Avimta Mishkachasla, you could find it. But if you do that, then Hasur Lazem Teres Lazeh Mishkachasla, because they're going to be Asar on both, because you can't be with your mom, just like you can't be with your mom, you can't be with your mom's sister. So therefore, both of those are going to be ervas. In which case, then he says, okay, so if you want to make it that he could be mutter to one and not mutter to the other, the only way you could do that is by saying that the father Yaakov was with two ladies that are not sisters. On us. Like, congratulations, Levi can't be with Leah, but he can be with Rachel, and Yehuda can't be with Rachel, but he can be with Leah. But now Leah and Rachel are no longer Leah and Rachel. Really, they should be like Penina and Hadassah. They're not sisters anymore. And the Mishnah later on says we're talking about sisters. So therefore, that is the reason. So therefore, Rava says that's the reason why Rebbe said that Levi's wrong. In fact, the language he used was Kimedumali. It seems to me that Levi is empty-headed. He's he has no brain in his skull. Either way, third answer. Rav Ashi says a different answer. Rav Ashi's answer is combining really the opposite of the first two answers. First answer was we don't have our Mishnah having machloksim. The second answer is that we don't mind having machloksim in the Mishnah, but since we connect the Mishnah with the din of Reb Chia, Anusas Aviv doesn't fit. The third answer, Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi Amar La'olam Leslie the Rebbe Haniklali. Really, La'olam, we don't care about the Mishnah Chavav. All we care about is the 15 listed, and Bepluk to Kameir, we have no problem putting ervas in the Mishnah that are dependent on a machlekes. In which case, then the major question would be, why doesn't Anusas Aviv go in? Because again, Anusas Aviv is a machlokes between Reb Yehuda and the Chachamim. The Chachamim say a man is allowed to marry his father's, let's say, mistress, whereas Reb Yehuda says he can't. Meaning, again, just for context, you're not allowed to marry your father's wife, even if it's, let's say, from a different. She's not your mother. Yeah, you certainly can't marry. You can't be with your father's wife, who is your mother. Those two are out. What about if your father had an illicit relationship, never got married? I don't know. It's a previous girlfriend, whatever it was, before he became frum, and they were together. Are you allowed to marry that woman after she becomes frum? She's a Baal Tshuva. She's a wonderful lady. She was never married to your father. Can you marry her? So Rabbi Yehuda says no. The Chacham say yeah. Right. So since the Chacham say yeah, and the Rabbi Yehuda says no, the Gemara had said that we don't want to have our Mishnah dependent upon a machlekes. That's why we didn't stick it in the Mishnah. Now Rav Ashi says no, we have no problem sticking machloksim in the Mishnah. So then, in which case, then why is this not the 16th example of an arayis in the Mishnah? Says Rav Ashi, "Umay kimeduma ani she'en le'mayach bekatkada." And what did Rebbe mean when he said to Levi, "I think he's brainless"? The ka'amarle. What was he? What did he mean? Hachi ka'amarle. This is what he meant. Meaning, you, Rebbe was saying to Levi, you, Levi, should have figured out that by not, you're suggesting Anusas Aviv should be in the Mishnah. That implies that you believe that the halacha is where you're picking sides. Who are you picking sides like? You'd be picking sides like the Chachamim. Because if you'd be picking, what you basically would be saying is that our Mishnah holds that you could have a scenario where Shimon can marry Reuven's mother. How could Imo fall to Reuven unless Shimon was married to her? How could Shimon marry Reuven's mother? Isn't that his father's wife? The answer is no, it's his father's mistress, and that's not a big deal. You can marry your mistress, so clearly you're holding like the Chachamim. But the problem is if you just would have waited 2 minutes and looked at the next Mishnah, the Mishnah on Daf Yud Gimel, which we're going to get to in 2 days, 3 days, the Mishnah over there tells us, and we're going to read it inside, but I'll just say it outside. It mentions 6 ladies that the first Mishnah can't apply to. Meaning, in order for the first Mishnah to work, it has to be that when Shimon dies, his wives fall to Reuven. That means Shimon has to have been able to get married to these women. So there are 6 arayos that technically Reuven can't be with, but they would never fall to min yibum because Shimon can't ever marry them. The 6 are Imo, right? The mother, meaning Reuven's mother. If Imo is his father's wife, then Shimon can't marry that woman because if they're brothers, then it's his mother also. And if it's his brother's mother, well, then that's his father's wife. You can't marry your father's wife either. So Imo is usher, Eishes Aviv is usher. So again, if any one of these women are going to be usher on Reuven,
why would they show this on the board?
Say again?
Why would they do this on the board?
Because we're trying to have davening in 20 minutes, and it's a little bit of a difficulty. Yeah, I'm not rushing.
Why can't you go past davening?
I don't know because I don't.
Does anybody know what you're talking about? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I vote the floor.
Okay.
We'll go back.
Okay. I don't know what you're doing. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I promise you, if you would have been here, 100%, 100%,
I
you
thought
know.
we said 8 o'clock we're doing that.
No, after davening was a daven.
Oh.
Yeah,
Guys, pancakes down here. Yeah.
it's amazing.
Watch
You can please them. You can't tell them a time that they'll be able to follow.
If anyone's
We
leaving,
did it.
you
We
watch.
said
We did. It was
said
super
right away
obvious. Yeah.
afterwards, yeah.
Why is it such a tight schedule today anyway?
If you wash and you're leaving, don't forget Alnison.
No, we're gonna do.
Okay, continue the Gemara.
Yeah, but some people might leave before the family starts.
So says Rav Ashi. So I'm saying to you, it works.
8:30.
Breakfast.
See,
We didn't put the schedule over. Right? Come eat breakfast.
come, stay, have coffee.
This is what Rebbe was saying to Levi. My time alone diakta masnisin. Why didn't you look at the Mishnah later on, the Masnisin Rabbi Yehuda? You should have concluded that the first Mishnah clearly has to go with Rabbi Yehuda and not the Chachamim. Meaning we can't include a Nusas Avim in the first Mishnah, because if you look at the next Mishnah, clearly over there, it's going like Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says Anusas Aviv is us. Rabbi, just to review, remember, what's an Anusas Aviv? It's a person's father's, a woman that is that the person's father's been with, but has not been married to.
Right.
So let's say a mistress, or he raped her, whatever it is, no ishus, no kiddushin. So there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabban on whether a son is allowed to marry that woman. Meaning, certainly if the father was married to her, that's Eishes Aviv, or maybe mom. That's a problem. But what about if it's just a relationship? Let's say you have a Baal Tshuva, he had an old girlfriend, they had sex, she became from, he became from, and after he became from, he had a bunch of kids. Can Reuven go marry his father's ex-girlfriend from many, many years ago? That's why he would, but let's say that's the case. So the answer is that something depends on the machlokas. Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo yigalek naf aviv, you can't. The Chachamim say, no, it's not a problem.
We said yesterday.
That's a machlokas yesterday. Yeah, no.
Baruchia said two
What if,
things.
what if he doesn't know? He marries this.
Not going to be a mom's.
Does he now have to divorce her?
Yes. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he would have to divorce her, and according to the Chachamim, he's allowed to stay married to her. And either way, if they have a child, the child's fine. Because it's only an Isser Rabban.
So what two things
Sorry, it's
did
only an
Baruchia
Isser
say?
Lav, not an Isser Karis. What?
Baruchia said two things?
No, let's leave Rechia for a second. Right now, we're off Rechia. Rechia is,
The rabbi's catching up to you. So he's stuck
yeah.
up here.
The second answer is Rechia. Second answer is the more
There's
I
two
go.
answers in the Gemara.
Yeah, we're holding now on the third answer of Bashi.
Oh.
Bashi says we're not going with Rechia. And La'olam, our Mishnah can be talking about arguments, in which case then Anusas Aviv should be in the Mishnah, right? Anusas Aviv is dependent on Machlekes. We'll say that, right? But in order to do that, you have to put the Machlekes in the Mishnah, you'd have to pick which side, the Chachamim, right? According to the Chachamim, Anusas Aviv belongs in the Mishnah. Says Rebbe to Levi, look at the Mishnah Daf Yud Gimel. What does the Mishnah say over there? It mentions 6 women who can never fall to Reuven. Why? Because they weren't not allowed to marry Shimon, and one of those people is Imo. Says the Gemara. Why? How can I prove that our Mishnah must be going like Rabbi Yehuda? Because let's read the next Mishnah. The Asr ben Nusasav. The Tani Shesha Rayas Chamurus Meilu. This is the next Mishnah. The Mishnah says there are 6 women that are more chamer than the 15 in our Mishnah. And why? Because they can only marry others. They're not allowed to marry the brother. They can't marry Shimon. So since they can't marry Shimon, when Shimon has a tzara, another wife, tzara saying mutaros, those other women are going to be mutar to Ruvain. Because again, Shimon can't marry any of these 6 ladies. What are the 6 ladies? Like I said, Imo, Reuven's mother, Shimon can't marry because it's his father's wife. And then Eshes Aviv, let's say it's a different wife, not Reuven's mother, but Levi's mother, a different father's wife. Achos Aviv, your father's sister. Reuven and Shimon are both equally usher in their father's sister because they share a father. Achosame Aviv, what about their sister from the father? They both can't be with her. So again, in all of these cases, there's not a scenario where Shimon can marry one of these ladies so that they'll ever fall to Reuven. So that's what the Mishnah is saying. Now ask the Gemara as follows. So some of the cases are Imo, Ve'eshes Aviv, Achos Aviv. Ask the Gemara, my Imo, what is the case of Imo in that Mishnah? Mother. So there's 3 possibilities. Possibility number 1, it's Reuven's mother, who's also Shimon's mother. That's obviously a problem. Or it's Reuven's mother, who's not Shimon's mother, but it's Shimon's father's wife. Also, that's an erva. But ask the Gemara, that this woman that's being referenced by Imo is talking about the mother. Nisuas Aviv means the father's wife in some capacity. Well, would that not be covered by the second one on the list, Hainu Eshes Aviv? If Imo is talking about it's Reuven's mother, and his mother was married to Yaakov, then that would by definition mean that that's covered in the second example. The second example is a much bigger umbrella term, Eshes Aviv, the wife of your father. The wife of your father basically includes everyone who's ever been married to him. That'll include Reuven's mother, Levi's mother, Shimon's mother, if those were all marriages. Whereas it does not include, the only thing it doesn't include is the ex-girlfriend, the mistress, or the rape victim.
Meaning not like a wife, but more like a concubine.
Concubine, a non-marriage.
That separate.
That's Anusas Aviv. Anusas Aviv is exactly the case that would be included. Imo could only mean Anusas Aviv. Because if it means any of the other ones, it's already covered by the second one on the list. In order for Imo to be talking about a married woman, well, that would always be covered under Eshes Aviv. Find me a lady who would be called Imo who isn't Eshes Aviv if they're married. Eshes Aviv means your father married a lady. That's it. That includes all of the mothers of all of his sons.
No, but Yaakov's concubines were considered like his.
You mean like Bilhah and Zilpah? So yeah, that's a little bit different. I was saying yes by concubine, but really technically
they
not.
weren't
Technically,
like
they were called. They were like wives.
Over there, it
This-
doesn't count because there's kids. So
Yeah, that's a separate reason. But yeah. So okay, so what are we saying over here? We're saying over here that says Rav Ashi. Says Rav Ashi like this.
Yeah, can I want to have to leave. Can I bench over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Yeah, no, it's okay. Go ahead. Yeah, let's do it.
Cal, don't forget Al Mason.
You'll make a bar prayer when you get to it, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So continues the Gemara. So what are we saying? Imo clearly has to be talking about Anusas Aviv. Why? Because it can't be talking about one of your father's, one of the mothers of the brothers that came through marriage, because any marriage, any woman that was married to your father would be covered by the second one on the list. So why even mention Imo in the Mishnah later on? Clearly it must be talking about Anusas Aviv, which means that the Mishnah later on is saying what? That woman, Imo, who was Anusas Aviv, cannot marry Shimon. Why not? Must be because that Mishnah is going like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says you're not allowed to marry your father's mistress.
Why are they classifying it as Imo?
Well, it's Reuven's mother, because Yaakov had an illicit relationship and had a child, Reuven. And now that woman, Reuven's mother, went ahead and married Shimon, which is completely mutter, according to the Chachamim, but not according to Rabbi Yehuda. So since, according to the Chachamim, Shimon married Reuven's mother, and now Shimon died, all of a sudden, who's falling to Reuven and Yibam? His mom. That's a problem. But that could fit in the Mishnah, according to the Chachamim. But says Rebbe to Levi, you clearly see from the Mishnah later on that our Mishnayos are not working within the Chachamim, because it lists Imo as one of the ladies that can't marry Shimon. How could that be? It's got to be Anusas Aviv, and Anusas Aviv can't marry Shimon, so that's got to be going like Rabbi Yehuda. So what are you going to tell me? The first Mishnah is like the Chachamim, and the second Mishnah is like Rabbi Yehuda? So says Rebbe to Levi, you have no brain in your head? Obviously, the Mishnayos have to be according to the same Tana. That's how Rav Ashi explains the Gemara. Easier to do this sober. If we would be drunk in the afternoon, we definitely wouldn't have a clue. Amen.
Have a safe trip. Thank you very much for sponsoring.
Enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
When are you coming back?
You're the best, man.
Mr. Shem Sunday.
We'll see you
We'll see you Monday.
in Yerushalayim Kodesh.
Amen.
Amen. So Gemara says like this: My emo that's the second one on the list. Elolav anusas aviv. It's talking like we just said, like anusas aviv. It's got to be anusas aviv. What does it say? Ukitani mipnei she'enu suas la'cheirim. It says they can only marry others. La'cheirim, they can marry other people. La'achin lo, they can't marry brothers. Who is the opinion who holds that anusas aviv cannot marry one of the brothers? Man shamad lei de islay haisvara. Rabbi Yehuda, the asar anusas aviv. In which case, then mishum hachi loitani lei. That's the reason why the first mission doesn't include it, because we're going in the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And again, Rabbi Yehuda says a man is not allowed to be with his father's rape victim or his father's mistress or his father's ex-girlfriend, right? Whereas the Chacham say, yeah, but we're clearly going in the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So Levi is asking Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, why doesn't it mention Anusas Aviv in the Mishnah? The answer is very simple. Our Mishnah is going like Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda would hold that it doesn't belong in the Mishnah. So now it says, so we have three answers. We have three answers to the question of why do we not put Anusas Aviv in the Mishnah?
What's the answers?
First answer, I'm going to repeat them.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. I'll repeat them in a good way.
Yeah.
Answer number one is Anusas.
What were you answering here?
Why did Levi suggested Anusas Aviv as number 16 in the Mishnah, and Rabbi Yehuda said, what are you nuts? Doesn't belong in the Mishnah. Three reasons. Reason number one, there's a Mishnah later on Daf Chavav. That Mishnah is the Mishnah of Reb Chia, right? We asked the Kasha on there. Rabbi doesn't hold from that. And since he doesn't hold from that, and he doesn't want to put anything in our Mishnah that is dependent upon a machlekes, we left it out, because Anusas Aviv is the machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbana. That's the first answer. The second answer is that no, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi has no problem putting machloksim in the Mishnah. And not only that, does he have no problem putting machleksim in the Mishnah? He holds of the Mishnah later on. The reason why Anusas Aviv doesn't belong is because Anusas Aviv will never fit into the Mishnah later on. Because in order for Anusas Aviv to be the erva that is falling, in the case we gave before, when you have Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda, for Levi and Yehuda to both be an erva with the, if you remember the picture, right? If the other one, it would have to be because it's their mom, Anusas Aviv. But if these women are sisters, then isn't this woman here also her sister? And that's also an erva. And the Mishnah later on says that he can't be with her, but could be with her. He can't be with her, but could be with her. So if they're sisters, then my mom's sister is also a problem with me, so it doesn't fit the Mishnah later on. So says that's the second answer to the Gemara. You can't stick Anusas Aviv in our Mishnah, because our Mishnah does go with that Mishnah. You got to combine the two, and if it's true here, it's got to be true there, and it won't be true there. That's the second answer to the Gemara. The third answer is Rav Ashi. He says, La'olam, we have no problem with having machloksim in the Mishnah. La'olam, we don't hold of Rebbe Chia. And so
we don't line them up.
We don't line them up. So if we don't line them up, so Anusas Aviv can fit now. And if we have no problem with machlekes, Anusas Aviv can fit. So why doesn't Anusas Aviv not fit in the Mishnah? Says Rav Ashi, because if you put Anusas Aviv in the Mishnah, it's going to mean that our first Mishnah is going like the Chachamim. But it's clear from the Mishnah Daf Yud Gimel that Masechta Yevamos is working within Rabbi Yehuda. Because what's Imo doing in that next Mishnah? Really?
They don't line up, so how's it?
No. It's not that they. When I say they don't line up, what I mean is Rabbi Chia had a brisa that says that every woman in the first Mishnah, every one of those 15 women, can fit the case over there. Anusas Aviv can't fit the case over there. But to say that the two Mishnayos are according to the same opinion, that makes a lot of sense. It would be strange, actually, to say that the first Mishnah of the Masechta is all Rabbi Yehuda, and the entire second Mishnah is all the Chachamim. You know, unless it says specifically, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the Chachamim Omer, that's fine, no problem. We can have two. But to just leave a Stam Mishnah with no identity to who's the one who authored the Mishnah, and then to say, oh yeah, that's someone, and that's a completely different person, and they argue, and we're not even going to mention, oh, by the way, this is him, and that's him, that's a very strange thing. So the Gemara is sort of answering. The third answer as to why Levi is wrong and you shouldn't put the 16th Erev of Anusas Aviv is because it would mean the first Mishnah is going like the Chachamim, the second Mishnah is going like Rabbi Yehuda, and that's a problem. So those are the three answers. Now says the Gemara in this third answer, or again, Reb Chia is out, so you can forget Reb Chia now. This whole business, you can put that on the side for now. So says the Gemara like this. So that was Rav Ashi's answer. Amalei Ravina Rav Ashi. L'Reb Yehuda nami mishkachas la. He says, 1 second. You could still have Anusas Aviv in our Mishnah. Why? Because really, when we say that Reb Yehuda holds that you're not allowed to marry Anusas Aviv, that's true, certainly. But what if Shimon didn't pay attention and he married her anyways? He liked her too much. Is the Kedushin Tovas? Yes. Meaning, because why would Rabbi Yehuda say you can't marry her? Not because she's a kares. It's a love. And we hold that although you shouldn't marry someone who's usher to you in a love, if a Kohen tries to marry a Grusha, he answers because of Kedushin, he's not allowed to marry her, but if he did, Kedushin takes. They're married. If she wants to go marry someone else, she needs a get. The marriage is 100%. So over here too, Rabbi Yehuda says a man is not allowed to marry his father's mistress. But if he does, it takes. So that means technically Shimon could be married to her. It's just you shouldn't hope that he would be, but he could be. So says Ravina to Ravashi, you could still put Anusas Aviv in the Mishnah. It's one of the ervas. We'll say the following case. What happened? Yaakov, the father, had a mistress, and he had a child from the mistress. His name was Reuven, right? Shimon, who was his regular son from his wife, went ahead and married, illegally, but married Reuven's mom. That's fine, meaning he shouldn't have done it, but the Kedushin takes, and now he dies. All of a sudden, Shimon's wife, Reuven's mother's fallen to him in Yibum. That could be in the Mishnah. So if Shimon were to be married to another woman, that other woman would also be pater because it's a Tzara Serva and the whole series in the Mishnah. So says Ravina to Ravashi, you could put the case together. The case together would have to be where Shimon did something he shouldn't have done. Says the Gemara, Di'i over v'nosif. Let's say he was over on the Aveira and he went ahead and married her. He says to him back to him, he says, Di'i like Katani. We're not talking about any of these Di'is. We're not talking about any of the Di'evits. The Mishnah is a list where Shimon did nothing wrong in getting that wife. We're not, we didn't want to say before Machlaitzim, says Ravashi, we also don't want to say that the way you get to the Mishnah is by saying that Shimon did something wrong. Says the Gemara, Amalei Ravashi, Rav Kahana, Ravashi says, however, if you want to know the truth, you could still put it in, and you could put it in a way where Shimon didn't do anything wrong. He says, but you still have to say that the father did something wrong, and this is the way it goes. You could say, without any b'di'evets for Reuven and Shimon, you can have it coming out that Reuven is having his mother fall to him in Yibum when Shimon dies. How? So here, I'll read it inside and then I'll explain the case outside. Actually, no, let's do it the other way around.
You sure you don't want to think?
Yeah, it's not that complicated. I mean, for me, but trust me, you guys will get it. So let's say you have a guy Yaakov, and the Gemara uses the word Yaakov, so we're going to say Yaakov's about to do something not so nice. We're obviously not talking about Yaakov Avinu. The Gemara uses Yaakov, so I'm going to use Yaakov. Okay, so let's say Yaakov because it's easy for us to connect the relationship with all different people. Yaakov was ma'anas a lady. Who was the lady that he was ma'anas? His son's wife. So Yaakov already had a son with his wife. Yaakov and Sarah, they had a son. We'll call that son, I don't know, let's call him Reuven. Yeah? So he has a son, Reuven, and Reuven goes and marries Rachel. So Reuven's wife, Rachel, Yaakov is ma'anas, he rapes his daughter-in-law. Or they have an affair, whatever it is. And they have a baby. The baby's name is Shimon. So let's work it out. Who is Shimon to Reuven? From his father, they're brothers. Reuven and Shimon are brothers from their father. But Reuven is also Shimon's uncle. Why? Because Shimon's mom is Reuven's wife, right? So that is his mom's husband. So that comes out that Reuven and Shimon, who are brothers, what now happens? So now you have Reuven and Shimon who are brothers. Now, let's say Reuven's wife, Rachel, who was again Shimon's mom, has another wife. We'll call her Dinah. And now Reuven dies. So Dinah, and who's not related to anybody, and Rachel, who is Reuven's mom, are falling to Reuven and Yibum. So that's a perfect case. Now you have Anusas Aviv. Yaakov, Shimon's father, raped Reuven's mother. Boom. So Shimon's dying, leaving Reuven's mother to him. And Shimon did nothing wrong, and Reuven did nothing wrong. Agav, in this case, Shimon is a mamzer, but that's irrelevant. The point is that, because again, he was the byproduct of Yaakov and two things, his Aneshesish and daughter-in-law. Two ervas. He's a double mamzer, and two negatives are positive. So he's still a mamzer. He's a double mamzer. Yeah. The point is you could find such a case. So Rav Ashi is saying that this is not a b'di'evet. I think this is a double b'di'evet, but okay. This is not. Shimon and Reuven did nothing wrong, and he's saying that you can have a case in our Mishnah where the Reuven and Shimon did nothing wrong.
Well, the reason why it's not a b'di'evet is because the b'di'evet over there is the marriage. Over here,
correct.
He may not have known about.
Correct. Yes, 100%. So says the Gemara. Despite that fact, it still doesn't fit because we don't want to have this either. Says the Gemara, what's the case? Yaakov anas kalaso. Yaakov was ma'anis. He raped his daughter-in-law. In our case, Rachel, who was married to his son Reuven. V'holed mimenu ben. Sorry, we'll call him because the Gemara actually puts in parentheses brackets Reuven, so that's going to confuse us. Yeah, Mishkachas la Yaakov anas kalaso, who was married to Shimon. Okay, he was married to Shimon. V'holed mimenu ben, right? And then a son, and the son's name was. No, I had it right. Let's go back. I'm sorry. Holid Mimena Ben is, we go the other way. We'll say it like this. Yaakov Anas Kala, so he raped Rachel, was married to Reuven. Yeah? The Holid Mimena Ben, Shimon. Umeis Ruvain, below Banim. And now Ruvain dies without children. So what's going to happen over here? Who's falling to Shimon? His mom. Benafla Kame Bra. She's falling to her own son, meaning to say this is a case of Anusas Aviv. Imo Anusas Aviv. Umigu Di'i Asira. She's Aser. Tzaras Nami Asira. Dina in this case would be a Tzara. Tzaras Ervas Aser. So there you go. You have a case in the Mishnah of Anusas Aviv. Imo Anusas Aviv. Amarle, no. We're only talking about brothers who came about to be brothers through no Averas. We're not talking about brothers who became brothers through any Isurim. And since the only way that Reuven and Shimon are brothers is that Yaakov was Ma'anis, one of the mothers, who was also a daughter-in-law, that removes it as from a possibility. Okay, so what did we just say? We just we're touching up some administrative duties on the third to answer, but at the end of the day, we have three answers like we said before. So now we have Levi, who said you should have put Anusas Aviv. Rebbe said no, for three different reasons. Levi, who apparently didn't mind that Rebbe called him brainless, said, I'm sticking it in my Mishnah. Meaning you might not have it in the Mishnah that you put in your Gemara, but I'm putting it in my Mishnah. You need something, guys? Go for it. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so he says, even though Rebbe said, hey, buddy, you're missing something in your kepi. He says, Vodka Levi b'masnis, and he put it in his Mishnah. Meaning Levi's Mishnah didn't have 15 arayos in the first Mishnah, he had 16. And l'chayra, that would also mean that he didn't have 6 in the next Mishnah. Tosa speaks this out. I mean, you cannot have 6 and 16. It's either 15 and 6 or 5 and 16. Because emo can't be in both. Because emo, unless you want to say one's good and one's chachamim.
What was the next Mishnah again?
The sheish arayos chamuras me'elu, the ones that can't marry Shimon. We said before that has to be talking about Anusas Aviv when it says emo. Well, if it's Anusas Aviv there, unless you want to say, without getting too complicated, unless you want to say that the Mishnah says the 15 arayos is talking about where it was Anusas Aviv and it was done be'isser, and later on it's talking of, no, it wouldn't fit. It would have to be Mishnah later on 5 and here's 16. But either way, and now we're going to quote Levi's actual Mishnah. This is just going to be a read-through of what Levi's Mishnah would look like after he includes emo and Anusas Aviv. The Tani Levi emo, pa'amin poteres tarasu, pa'amin mena poteres tarasu. Sometimes a mother will pater et tzara. Why? Because she could technically fall, can marry Shimon, and therefore the kedushin is tofis. And when she falls to her son, she'll pater the tzara. And there are times when she can't marry the brother, and therefore when Shimon dies, she won't pater the tzara because they're not married. Ketzad. Haisa imo nesuas aviv. If, let's say, Reuven's mother was also married to Yaakov, well, then Shimon can't marry her. Not only that, if Shimon tried marrying her, it's not tofes. V'nisis la'achiv me'aviv, and it's not tofes. Not tofes means the marriage does not take effect. It doesn't work. It's just money. It's like, here, harayat mekudeshesli, and if she wants to go marry someone else, she doesn't need to get. She's not considered married. So if Shimon went ahead and married Reuven's mother, who is a wife of Yaakov, who's also his father, then it's his father's wife. Kedushin doesn't work. It doesn't take effect. If it doesn't take effect, that means when Shimon now dies, who's falling to his brother Reuven? Only non-relatives, meaning Dina, Penina, whoever. Those women are going to be a regular normal yibum. Therefore, the halacha is the mother doesn't pater her. Zuhi imo she'ein poteres tarasa. That woman is going to have still a din of nida, din of yibum. Yeah. However, says Levi in his Haisa imo yanusas aviv, the case we've been discussing until now. Let's say it was a mistress or something like that. So again, Reuven's mother was never married to Yaakov. She was just a lady that he knew. And Shimon went ahead and married her, which he can. There's nothing wrong with it, meaning it's usher to do. But if he did, they're married. And now Shimon dies, all of his other wives are going to be pater from Yibam with Reuven. Why? Because along with them, you have Reuven's mom. And Reuven's mom is an erva to him. He can't be with her. If he can't be with her, he can't be with the tzaras. So therefore it says there, V'nisis lachim.
There's another brother, he can't.
The other, very good question. Let's say Levi, right? Yes, because yes, all of those women could fall to Levi because it's only a problem with Reuven because it's Reuven's mom. As long as Levi is not also a byproduct of that same lady, meaning if Yaakov had multiple kids from that same woman, then Levi would have the same problem with Reuven. But if Levi is from a different mother, or if let's say Levi and Shimon are brothers from their own mother who was, let's say, married, then yeah, Yibam could be done with Levi, but Reuven would be completely putter when it's Anusas Aviv. Good question. Yeah. Okay. So Umeis Zuhi Imo Shupater Sarasa. Now let's just point this out. So this is Levi's Mishnah. That the Mishnah now has 16, and Va'afal Pi Sheshanu Chachamim BeMishnah Seinu Chameshes. Right. Even though in the Mishnayos of Rebbe it only says 15, Yesh lanu lahosif sheish esrei. He says I can add an additional one. Can go into this case of anusas aviv. So let's pause. Let's take a breath. Anusas aviv is no longer in our Mishnah, but in Rebbe Yehuda's Talmud Levi's Mishnah, it's there. Why? Because according to him, he doesn't mind putting someone in the Mishnah who, how did she get there? An Aveira. Right. Shimon went ahead and married someone who he wasn't supposed to marry, but marriage takes. When he dies, she's falls to her brother Yibam. Now, 1 second. Once we're talking about cases that can fall, and we have no problem putting them, at least in Levi's Mishnah. Levi has no problem putting things in the Mishnah that come about through an Aveira. The following question comes. Are there any other cases that we can now add into Levi's Mishnah? Levi only said 16. Says, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, they're going to talk about a 17. But before we talk about it, we have to talk about the following case. So just to quickly review Hilchas Yibam and Chalitza for a moment. If you have a brother, multiple brothers, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, a bunch of sisters, they all not sisters, and they marry a bunch of ladies, whatever it is. Now, what happened? What's the halacha if Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and let's say Shimon is married to Dinah. So Shimon dies. Dinah falls to Yibam to who? To Reuven and to Levi, right? Reuven and Levi could either one of them could do Yibam, but also true is either one of them can do Chalitza. And as long as one of the brothers does either Yibam or Chalitza, the parasha's over. Everything's good. Shalom al Yisrael. Okay, that's the end of the story. Yeah.
If he has multiple wives, do all wives fall to Yibam?
All wives fall to Yibam.
So you pick one. You
pick one.
On
No, once you do Yibam or Chalitza with one, they're all pater. Try to view it like one brother is like a shliach for all the rest of the brothers, and one wife is a shliach for all the rest of the wives.
Can you have multiple of them though? Well, let's say
If you wanted to marry multiple.
No, you
Okay.
can't. You can't marry multiple because
only
once you
marry one.
so let's do it slowly. Let's say you did Yibam with one of them, she becomes your wife. Well, now all of the other women are your brother's wife, who you no longer have a mitzvah with. That erva still exists. We say you could do Yibam only when the Torah says you have a mitzvah Yibam. As soon as the mitzvah goes away, you can't do it.
let's say you do
No, you can't. No, you can't. You can only do
let's say
one.
you did Kedushin too at the same time.
Okay, so so let's hold off because you get running issues. Maimer, which is the Rabbanan. Let's keep the case simple. So you have Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Shimon's married to Dinah. Shimon dies. So who is Dinah? Dinah is a Yevamos. She can either be with Reuven or she can be with Levi, or Reuven can give chalitza or Levi can give chalitza. So let's leave Yibam out for a moment. Let's say Reuven did chalitza with her. So now the halacha is Dinah is what to who? Let's say, can Levi marry Dinah? Why not? I agree with you. Eishazach. Is she chayv kares or is she only chayv alav? Because she's a brother, she's a wife's brother, right? Okay, what about to Reuven? Reuven did chalitza with her. Let's say he did chalitza. I didn't want to marry you. Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I really, you know what? I love you. I want to marry you.
That's just a love because the erva was removed.
Oh, so okay. So the erva was removed for him. He did chalitza with him. So everyone agrees with the one you did chalitza with. You can't marry her. However, that marriage. Is that me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's a little weird.
Just
Okay.
lower the volume.
Just or mute, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So that means to the chalutza between Reuven and the one he did chalitza with, that woman, he's not allowed to be with, but that's only an Isser Lav. Everyone agrees to that. There's a Machlekes, Reish Lakish, and Rabbi Yochanan. What about the other ladies? Meaning to the other brothers. Let's say Dinah wants to go be with Levi now. In that example we just gave, Reuven was the one who did chalitza with her, right? What's with Levi? If Levi gave her kesef kiddushin, is it tofes or is it not? Does it take or not? It all depends. If it's a chiyuv kares, it doesn't. If it's a chiyuv lav, it does. Good.
Well, we said that it was
Yeah.
If there was another wife, and he did chalitza with one of them.
Very good question. So you're saying, let's say Shimon has Dinah and Rachel. So Shimon has Dinah and Rachel and dies. Reuven goes ahead and does chalitza with Dinah. Rachel is an Isser Eishes Ach to all three other brothers. All three other brothers. Reuven, Levi, two other brothers. Reuven
So
and
the
Levi.
chalitza to one
The
wife.
chalitza to one. It's just
the only
Can
one.
we move the chair in there?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we'll clean up.
yeah.
Can you move the chair in there and we'll start that?
Oh yeah, they're starting. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Let's clean up the table.
What eat my breakfast?
That will continue in the next week. You can close the door.
How cool is it? No, we're gonna go over there. That's what I'm thinking about.
You can close the door. Yeah, I want to clean up the table.
Kevin, so just in rabbinical laws, the marriage is legit, but in deraisa, it's not.
Say that again.
In the deraisa marriages, where it's deraisa, it's not okay. And then the marriage is not okay. But in
You can't even marry. It won't work. Even with the rabban.
so then why is a guy allowed to marry his father's concubine?
Who's Yaakov?
He's not.
No, but you said that if he does, then it's
He
fine.
makes the money
Yes. Not that it's fine. That it takes. He would still have to divorce her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he would have to divorce her.
She doesn't. Yeah. Meaning, when I say it's tofus, all it means is
By the way, a quick shout out, Dan Kaufman's birthday today. I'd like to wish him a happy birthday. Happy birthday. Many more happy.
To the moon, to the moon.
Okay, you guys, let's set up in there.
How about you down there now?
I don't understand. Well, why lose it?
What room and where are we sitting? Rabbi, where are we sitting? What are we doing?
Let's set up a table.
Oh, okay.
Right here.
Or I have to go, I didn't know the chocolate.
Let's just grab a bunch of chairs.
Or I can't be.
The chairs are up, or we need a table?
Chairs are
Oh.
a little weird. We'll do it by the bathroom.
No. Oh, we're asking about that. As long as it's cool.
We'll do it over here. We'll do it over here.
Yeah, I got some.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on 1 second. 1 second before you start. Oh, big chairs. Thank you.
Boker Tov. Chag Sameach. Is this your shulchan? Okay, I'm going to take it from you. Your yotze. Can you put it down somewhere for me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Rabbi.
I'm going to start. We're continue. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are arguing over what's the status of the woman who he did chalitza with for the brothers. Meaning, for him, Reuven did chalitza with the lady, with Dina, let's say, to keep it simple. Dina is not allowed to marry Reuven again.
They're good, you said, right? His brothers are fine.
So there's a machlek. Rish Lakish says that they are still usher to Dina because Dina is Shimon's wife.
No, but he did chalitza.
No, he didn't do chalitza. Oh, sorry, you're right. He did chalitza. So for Reuven to now marry her, usher min haTorah, but it's not a kares. Want to grab a chair? Because yeah, it's going to be illustrated.
I'm very looking for him, everybody.
You got it, Ralph. I feel better. I don't want to make it worse. 500 chairs right there. So again, Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan have a machlokas. What's the halacha when a man, let's say Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. Shimon is married to Dina. Yeah?
People are going to watch.
Shimon is married to Dina, and Shimon dies. Now all of a sudden Dina falls to Reuven and Levi, his brothers. So the halacha is either Reuven or Levi could do Yibum, or Reuven or Levi could do chalitza. Let's say Reuven did chalitza. So now the branch is over, right? Everything's good. What if Reuven changed his mind and said, you know what, I'd like to marry her now. I mean, I did chalitza already, and now I want to marry her. Can he or can he not? On the one hand, she is his dead brother Shimon's wife, which he doesn't have a mitzvah zibum anymore. So maybe he'll say she should be also min haTorah, which she is. Is it a chiataris or not? Is it an eishes ach? Okay. So we'll say that no. We'll see later on. The Gemara says, "Kivan shelo bana shuv lo yitna." The Gemara is going to say, once you didn't build the house the first time, you have a new isser, but that new isser is no longer the isser of eishes ach. It's like the isser eishes ach went away for you specifically, and you have a new avera called shuv lo yitna, a regular love. Lo says in the Torah, don't marry the woman who you were full with.
So if they get married and they have a child, it's not
Not enough.
Wait, but you said that before. It kind of resets for him. In other
It
words,
does reset for him. There's no eishes
so
ach
he's
for
just
him.
not allowed to do it because it's not Eishes Ach, because he can sleep.
Right. So it's not a kares, it's not an erva of eishes ach. It's a regular love, not a
But why
good thing.
wouldn't it be Eishes Ach?
Well, it's technically called your brother's wife, but it wouldn't carry the severity of the lav, of the erva, because once she fell to him in Yibum and he did the ma'isa chalitza, Torah was mechadesh that ma'isa chalitza removes the zika component to it completely, and the isser eishes ach, which was once motor to him, he like locked in with that chalitza. So the chalitza, it's almost like it creates a new relationship for Reuven, the one who did the chalitza, with the woman he did the chalitza with. So specifically, Reuven and Dina have this special halacha that if they wanted to get married, They shouldn't. It's usher. But if they did, it would take. Meaning
But
to
then
say
they have to divorce right after.
they would have to divorce right away.
So otherwise it was a holiday tradition.
Because it's an issue.
I don't get
No,
the
no,
point
no.
of that, by the way. Why would you allow someone to marry someone and then they have to divorce?
It's not about allowing. If the rabbi, no would be Masada Kedusha by the Chazan, for sure. It's just that what if they did? Let's say they got somebody, they didn't tell anyone, whatever it is. They ran to Vegas and they found the rabbi and they said, let's get married. The rabbi said, oh, you look like a kosher Jew. You're a kosher Jew. Okay. Shalom Yisrael. Singing, dancing, beautiful chasana. And now the question is, you have a husband and a wife who aren't allowed to be married to each other. They come back home and they're like, you guys are married? You can't be married. Got to get a divorce. They tell them to get a divorce. And if they have kids in the meantime, kids are fine. Not a mamzer. No big deal. Meaning, it's a big deal. Don't be married to someone you're not going to be married to. But Dina and Reuven are not going to be usher to each other as a kares. No one can be usher as a lot. And that carries a whole different set of rules. You can marry someone. You shouldn't. But if you marry her, the marriage takes effect. The child from that relationship is not going to be a mamzer. Yeah? If, let's say, Dina now wants to go marry some random guy, needs a get. They are married, 100%. She needs a get. Okay, so what about Levi? Levi, instead of Reuven wanting to marry Dina, what if Levi wants to marry
Who
Dina?
is Levi?
The other brother, right? It's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. When Shimon died, technically Dina felt either Reuven or Levi. Reuven jumped the gun and did chalitza. Levi could have done it. Levi could have done Yevamos. He didn't. He came back he was on a business trip. By the time he got back, Reuven already did the chalitza. Oh man, I really wanted to marry her. Couldn't do it. I'll just give a kesef kiddushin. It'll be fine. I'll marry her now, just like Reuven wanted to marry. I'll jump the gun. I'll get her. Now, granted, he's being over on Weiler for sure. At a minimum, he's as much usher to her as Reuven is. The question is, does he retain his old Isser of Eshesach, which is a kares, in which case if he gives her kesef kiddushin, it doesn't take. If he has sex with her and has a child, that child is a mamzer. And if she wants to go marry someone else, doesn't need to get, because they're not technically married.
Yes, you said that just the one who does chalitza.
Oh, that is my question. I was answering in the words of Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says the brothers retain their old avera. Nothing changes. The only one who gets a new rule is the brother who did the chalitza. Yochanan argues, he says, no, once chalitza is done, it's like the person doing the chalitza was truly a shliach of all the other brothers, and all the other brothers get the same halacha as him. And once the chalitza was done with Dina, the other ladies also. I mean, he understands it like take what I said before all the way to its logical extension. That means that the same way Reuven now only has an Isser Daraisa, but not a Kares. With Dina, all of the other brothers are the same. So that means you can have the following scenario. So far, everything I just explained is actually the rest of the daf, except for the next 5 lines. So the rest of the daf is going to go real fast. The next 5 lines, the Gemara is suggesting as follows. We just said that Levi has his own Mishnah that doesn't contain 15 erevas. It has a 16th erev of Anusas Aviv. Why? Because he doesn't care that the way to get to Anusas Aviv is by having Shimon, right, do something he shouldn't do. What? Marry his father's mistress, which, again, according to Yehuda, who says you can't do it, he agrees so the Kedusha can happen. So therefore, you could have a scenario. What's the scenario? Yaakov, let's say, had a mistress, had a child from that mistress named Reuven. Shimon went ahead and married the mistress. Shimon dies. The mistress falls to Reuven, who's his mother. Therefore, you can have that against the Mishnah. How could that be? Doesn't Reb Shimon say you can't do that? Yeah, Reb Shimon says you can't do it. But if you did it, it's a good marriage. So Shimon would be considered married. So once you're okay putting something in your Mishnah Levi that requires someone doing something they shouldn't do, well, you can have the following case. What happens if Reuven, Shimon, and Levi are brothers? The exact same case we just discussed before. Shimon is married to Dina and let's say another lady, yeah? So Dina, Reuven goes and does chalitza with Dina, okay? By the way. If Reuven does chalitza with Dina, and now he wants to marry her, and he marries her. So now Reuven is married to Dina. And let's say Reuven has another wife. We'll call her Rachel. So Reuven is married to 2 ladies now. Dina, who he should get divorced from, but he doesn't. They're still married. And he has another wife, Rachel, who's just a random. And he dies. He's got 2 wives, fall into lady.
So whether she taints, whether Dina
So do we say that Dina, who to Levi is an erva, according to Rish Lakish, because Rabbi Yochanan is only an Isser Lav, makes Sarah also pater. So if you hold like Rish Lakish, Dina, who's an erva to Levi, paters even Sarah. like Rabbi Yochanan, Dina is a good wife. Now, they're both good wives. Everyone agrees the marriage between Reuven and Dina took. Because for Reuven himself, he was only usher as a regular lot, the Dina.
Or even he died before maybe he wanted to get divorced, but he just passed away right after the.
Could be, whatever it is, whatever the scenario is, marriage was good.
Right.
He's married to Dina. When he dies, Dina and his other wives, let's say Rachel, are now falling to Levi and Yibum. There's a Zika. There's a real Yibum issue here. Question is, do we say that since from Levi's perspective, Dina is an Ereva? Why? Only an Ereva according to Rish Lakish, because she retains the original Isser Eshes Ach from the first brother. Hey, good morning, what's up? If, on the other hand, you hold like Rabbi Yochanan, Dina is the same relationship with the brothers as she had with Reuben. So she doesn't, so there's a Yibum there. Now, granted, Minatorah, we would say, Midrabanan, we might say, don't do Yibum because you're not allowed to be with this lady. But in terms of marriage, Reuben is truly married to both women. And now, when Reuven dies, Levi's trying to figure out, so what am I supposed to do? Well, one of these ladies, according to Rish Lakish, is an Ereva. So that Ereva Paters, like meaning. So ask the Gemara, why doesn't Levi include that case in the Mishnah, in his Mishnah? I mean, once he's okay, including Erevas that are falling to a brother, to Pater the Tzara, why not include this case? Now, again, you realize.
Because that's a crazy question. Like, that's a question off of like 6 other situations.
True, but it's a case. Meaning, I could say the following: the Mishnah lists 15 ervas. Levi says it has also imo anusazav. It has your mother in a case of anusazav. It wouldn't include all mothers, just this one unique case. He's got no problem getting Yevamos on everyone and saying, no, you can have imo in this convoluted case. We have another convoluted case. Why can you include? And this is, I guess, the way it would be listed in the Mishnah is you would say it's. Acholitz liyavimta v'chazer v'kitsha. That's the way the Gemara says. Person who did chalitza with his Yevama, and then he got married to her, and then he dies.
Because Rish Lakish says that it's not okay.
So Rish Lakish would say it should go in Levi's Mishnah because according to him, Levi was having 2 people fall to him. One of them is an erva, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, it wouldn't fit because according to Rabbi Yochanan, the marriage is good. Not only that, technically there is a yibum for both of them. There's no Petura. So that's actually how the Gemara goes. It says the Gemara like this. It says Rish Lakish, who would hold that Levi would have him in his Mishnah. No. Why? Because again, according to Rish Lakish, we'll use the same people we've been discussing, Levi is usher with Dina as an Ereva. That's because he holds that the brother can't be with Dina for the same reason they can never be with Dina because it is Shimon, their dead brother's widow. Yeah. Okay. So now says the Gemara, overly Rish Lakish, again, who holds that all of the other brothers with Dina are a kares. Li Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that they're not a kares. Li Levi, according to Levi, who has 16, not 15 in the Mishnah, meaning he has no problem including ervas that are built on somebody having done an aveira. The Amar Dei, that he includes the Evet cases, the ones that came through an aveira.
I mean, I have to use the bathroom going in so can I be pattern from now?
What do you mean, Pater? Meaning, do I permit you to leave?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just close the door if you don't mind if you want. Okay, so since according to Levi, he holds the Amar Dei Nami Kitani, he has no problem including them in the Mishnah.
Wait, why would Rabbi Yochanan say that this is fine?
Rabbi Yochanan won't. We'll see in a moment. Rish Lakish is the one who's going to say this could be another case in Levi's Mishnayos.
Right. So why would Rish Lakish say?
Because again, Rish Lakish would hold.
It's fine.
It's okay. Rish Lakish would say that Levi, right, would be a brother who can't be with Dina, like Kares, and therefore
can't be with a lot. So then that passes down.
Right. So like this. Remember, you have Reuben, Shimon, Levi. Shimon died, leaving over, let's say, Dina and Rachel. Dina is to Reuven, right? When Reuven does Yibum with her, not Yibum, sorry, Reuven does Chalitza and remarries her, the condition is good. He's supposed to divorce her, but he didn't. And before he divorced her, like you said in your example, Reuven is now dying. Who are these 2 ladies falling to Levi? One of them is Rachel, a regular, perfect woman to do Yibum with. Torah, Levi should have to do Yibum with her. What about Dina? What is Dina to Levi? She is the original one that he could have done Yibum and Chalitza with and didn't. So that, a year ago, she was ushered to him as a Fiyat Karetz, as an Eishasach.
So Rish Lakish says
According to Rish Lakish. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he says no.
So then why does Rabbi Yochanan say
Even
no?
according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's okay in marriage, but it shouldn't be happening in the first place. How
Correct.
can you do yibum on something that's
Well,
in the first place is not a good thing to do?
maybe midrabanan you can't, but midaraisa, there is, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Levi has no isser with Dina from Shimon's marriage. That isser goes away. The only thing that's left is just a regular love. Just a regular love in the Torah, which is a problem. He shouldn't do it, but there's
So wouldn't his requirement just do chalitza at that point?
yes, midrabanan we would say to him do chalitza. Meaning, without getting super complicated, if the only reason why Levi can't be with Dina is just a regular love, and not a love sheish bekaris, like an erva, and we would say the mitzvah yibum does not say is the losa say of without getting too complicated in that older sugya, but yeah, meaning if the only reason why I can't do yibum with this lady is because the Torah says don't do it, but not it's an erva, then the
So
love
the positive mitzvah overcomes the negative.
yeah, that's the classic case for the 5 daf that we learned. Just like you could wear, shatnez and tzitzis and that whole business. So too, the mitzvahs yibum will be docha the love of, being with the woman who your brother did chalitza with. But, it's a little complicated. But the point is that right now we have a scenario where when Reuven dies, the 2 ladies that are falling to Levi, one of them, according to Reish Lakish, is an erva. So it would certainly fit our Mishnah to say that you could put this case in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says you have an erva that paters a tzara. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it wouldn't fit the Mishnah because according to Rabbi Yochanan, they're both chayiv yibum. Why? Because although Reuven shouldn't have done what he did by remarrying the chalutza, and now that he dies, she's falling to Levi, and Levi is technically min haTorah aser to Dina, but it's only an iser lav, it's not an iser kares. So that means there's a yibum between the 2 of them. Min haTorah, you could do yibum with either one. Min derabanan, for sure, we would say do chalitza, because midaraisa.
Alternatively, he could go with the other wife.
Yes, and he could do yibum with the other wife. He doesn't have to do chalitza with the other wife. That's correct.
Okay.
So now.
So
what,
Dina does not taint the whole.
according to Rabbi Yochanan, according to Reish Lakish, she absolutely does. She's an erva to Levi.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So says Reish Lakish, why can't Levi put this case in the Mishnah? Which again makes sense according to Reish Lakish, because according to him, she's an erva that paters tzara. So that's how he says. Amalei Reish Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan, Lil Levi, the Amar Dei that includes cases of the Evid where someone didn't have error to get to the case, which would anusas of it. So then Namiktani he holds those. So then listening hacholitz liavimto v'chazar mikitchen. Why doesn't he include this case we just discussed? A man, Reuven, did chalitza to the Yevama, to Dina, the chazar, and then he went and married her. And then what? Umeis, he died below bottom, so that there's a din yibum. And he had another wife, let's call her Rachel. Yeah? So since Reuven died, one of his wives, Dina, along with Rachel, are now falling to Levi and yibum. Demigu deihi asura, just like Dina is asura to Levi as an erva. So Rasanami asura, so Rachel should also be, and it should fit in the Mishnah. So he asks Reish Lakish from Rabbi Yochanan, why don't we include a 17th case in the Mishnah? Meaning not our Mishnah is limited to 15. So we don't include these crazy cases. But Levi, who has no problem with crazy cases that involve weird, averas that people did, but technically the marriage works, this should fit there also. So the Gemara says, Amarle, Lefi she'ena b'tzaras tzara. What's the answer? The answer is, what did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said that if regular case, you have Reuben, Shimon, and Levi, forget this case for a moment. Reuben, Shimon, and Levi, Shimon is married to 2 ladies. Let's say he's married to Rachel and Leah. Shimon dies. Now Reuben, let's say Rachel is Reuven's relative, she's an erva. So since Rachel can't be with Reuven, that paters even Leah from being with Reuven. But since Rachel is only related to Reuven and not related to Levi, from Levi's perspective, both of these ladies are fine. So what's the halacha if now, instead of Reuven doing anything, Levi does yibum not with Reuven's relative, but with Leah, who is unrelated to Reuven, right? Who is now usher to be with Reuven. So the halacha is, if let's say Levi married Leah, did yibum with Leah, and Levi has another wife, we'll call her Sarah. So now you have Sarah and Leah, who blood-wise are not related to Reuven at all.
Still prohibited.
It's still prohibited. Why? Because once Leah was tainted through being in the co-wife marriage situation with Rachel, who was a relative, she herself becomes usher to Reuven. So now when she goes to be with Levi, she ushers Sarah. And if the Yehuda has another brother and he does it with Sarah and he has another wife, and that goes on, they can have 12 brothers and everything. Again, eventually you gotta ask yourself why this family has all these brothers dying. But the point is, technically speaking, every one of these wives and their co-wives are going to be usher on Reuven. Why? All from that very first woman who was an erva. So now, that works in the cases of the Mishnah because the reason why Reuven can't be with the erva is because of the relationship that he has with her. But what is the reason why this woman would be a problem on the brother, on Levi? Because it's Shimon's wife. Well, Shimon's wife is also on every single brother. So there is no scenario where anyone could marry the tzara. Like there's no other brother that can handle it. So since it dies at the tzara level, it can never get to the tzara level, says Rabbi Yochanan, that's why it's not in the Mishnah. It's why it's not discussed. Because what is the Mishnah effectively saying? Not only do these 15 women, are they pater? Not only do they pater the woman that they're married alongside with, let's say with their husband, but if that woman goes and marries a third brother, she paters.
Is that the same thing with with
Anusas Aviv?
Yeah.
Well, Anusas Aviv, no, because technically you can have two Averas, meaning Shimon could have done an Avera and married the woman he shouldn't have married, who his father's mistress. He did, and now he dies, falling to Reuven, right? So technically speaking, Reuven's pater. But what if there's Levi? Levi is not supposed to marry that woman. Why? Because it's Anusas Aviv. Well, let's say he did. Let's say he went ahead and did Yibum with her. He could do Yibum with her. It's not his mother. Levi is a byproduct of the
But
relationship.
if we follow Levi's opinion, right, he's prohibited. Because he's creating a Mishnah, he's creating a 16th case.
No.
So how is that 16th case applies to?
It's Sarah. Yeah, Levi can do Yibum with her. Levi could do Yibum with the other wife. He's not pater because it's not his mother.
Okay.
It's much easier with the chart.
Now I see why we have that chart.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. I'm going to finish it more for the recording or whatever. So now, once we have this machlekes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, so says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, why did you answer Reish Lakish by saying because you can't have it doesn't fit because of tzara? According to you, the din's not even true. According to you, it's not an erva. According to you, Levi is allowed to be with the woman, meaning to say, right? Remember, Reuven. What did Reuven do? Reuven did chalitza and then married a woman, Dinah, in our old case. And Dinah is only usher to him as allowed, so therefore it works. He can marry her. I mean, he shouldn't, but if he marries her, it takes. According to Rabbi Yochanan, Levi can do the same. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the chiddush of this halacha is that all of the brothers are now only usher as allowed. There is no more kares for this woman specifically. So technically speaking, when Reuven dies, Levi's not going to be pater from Yibum at all, because min haTorah, there's a zika, it falls. So why did Rabbi Yochanan give this convoluted answer? I don't know, because it doesn't fit. Because Levi is going to be a tzara. It's not true. The real truth is that according to Rabbi Yochanan, Levi is allowed to be with Dinah. Meaning not allowed to, but only an Isser Deresa, not an Isser Karetz. Right? So says the Gemara, that's exactly what the Gemara says. Ella, meaning why didn't Rabbi Yochanan just simply answer, Reish Lakish, Levi can't put that in the Mishnah, because to put that in the Mishnah assumes that she's an erva that would pater a tzara, but that's not true. She wouldn't pater a tzara because she's not usher to Levi as an erva, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, all of the brothers are only usher midaraisa without a kares. So it's not an erva that's going to pater. So he says, you're right. Lidvarav kamerle. I was answering Reish Lakish. I was giving Reish Lakish an answer that would help him. Meaning Reish Lakish was asking about his own opinion. According to me, who holds that the other brothers have their chayv kares. So according to me, then really Levi should have it in the Mishnah. And on that, Rabbi Yochanan was answering, yeah, according to you, the reason why it's not in the Mishnah is because you can't have a case of tzara. According to me, it shouldn't be in the Mishnah. For the basic reason that it's just not true. That's what it says. Lidvarav kamerle. Lididi, this is Rabbi Yochanan speaking, chayve lavan name, they're chayve lavan, and therefore chayve lavan b'nei chalitza v'yibam minu, so it can't fit the Mishnah. The Mishnah says they're pater. Chayve lavan have a chiyah v'yibam chalitza. Lididach, according to you, who holds that the other brothers are actually chayve krisos, therefore they can't do Yibum with Dinah. So for them, it would technically fit the Mishnah to say that Dinah paters, let's say, Rachel from them. But since there's no brother that can ever go with Rachel, because there's no case of tzara, because all of the brothers are going to be Yasser Rachel, therefore, Chayve Krisis Neno Lefisha Enam tzara, that's going to be the reason why it's not included. Now the Gemara goes backwards, as it typically does. It introduced this machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish by showing a dialogue between the two, and having for us to have to sort of like play hakdama role. Okay, what's going on here? Now the Gemara actually just speaks out. Then machlokas, a lot simpler because we just did it. Says the Gemara, Itmar hacholet liyivimda b'chazer b'kish. In this case, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven goes ahead and does. He should have done either Yibum and Chalitza, and then that was the end of it. He did Chalitza, and then he decided to remarry her or marry her, meaning to say he shouldn't have done it. He did it. The kedushin works. Amar Reish Lakish says, remember, he's the one who holds that although for him the kedushin works, the other brothers is still a chiyuv kares. Who ein chayav al chalutza kares? Meaning he, this man who remarried her, there's no chiyuv kares to him anymore, right? I'm gonna open the door for him. Oh, I actually have to go. What time is it?
Yeah, also.
You keep it up, McGilly, isn't it?
No, they're not.
Okay, I gotta go home. My wife's gonna shoot me. Okay.